Hi, everybody. This is the first Stand Tech Talk podcast, or series number 1. This series is a part of the project Stand Recorder for improving emotional well-being, and this project is supported by Norway through Norway grants. Today we have 2 parts. In the first part, I will present the project, and the second part we will have discussion with Professor Juris Šilters. He's professor and scientist from University of Latvia who specializes particularly on human cognition. So let's start with my presentation. Today I will tell you about the Stand camera, which is a handheld device to record, store, and release scents. So recently, maybe some background. This project is supported by, was previously supported by Latvian Investment Development Agency, and now supported through Norway grants, which I told you later. The project, the name of the project, the title of the project is Stand Recorder for improving emotional well-being, and this project is supported by Norway through Norway grants. But the origin of the project was, or the initial phase of the project or idea started in 2020. When my company called Mūriņš Startups, together with 2 universities, Riga Technical University and Latvian University of Latvia, we developed proof of concept prototype for Stand camera or Stand recorder. And this project was co-financed by Latvian Investment and Development Agency under program Innovative Vouchers. And now we started the second part of the project, or second part of stage of development of Stand recorder, and this project is supported by Norway through Norway grants and administrated by Latvian Investment and Development Agency. And the goal of the project is to create, to develop a manufacturing prototype, which is patentable for a Stand recorder. And this device should allow user to collect scents, store them in special storage capsules or cameras, and let it to release. And the main target audience of this project is people with visual disabilities, for them to just, as it could be the tool for them to collect their memories, because they are limited in their they're limited in a way how they can create memories through visual media like pictures or audio. The project is supported by public funding of totally 113 or around 114,000 euros. Behind the project, there are there are significant number of people and significant partners. So I'm like a CEO of the company or project leader. Then we have a chief technical officer, Martis Sejas, who is a scientist from Latvia, who has worked for Latvian Organic Institute and is PhD candidate in chemistry. Then we have designer Charles Puschmans, who is internationally recognized and awarded designer who specializes in human-centric design for hardwares. Then we have Karls Vītelis, who is lead engineer, and Rihards Kluge, who is lead chemist. Rihards Kluge is part of researcher in University of Latvia at faculty at chemistry faculty. And we have advisors, Juris, in which we will have a conversation today, and Kai Markus Müller, who is professor at consumer behavior in Volkswagen University in Germany. And we have Sandra Lipinska, who is a co-founding advisor. And she is part of early project team, but now she has chosen with another career path. And then we have several partners, like we have testing partners, which is who will help us with to develop methodology for how to test scent recording, scent accuracy of recording, and durability of recording, and this laboratory for perceptual and cognitive systems. Then we have a partner for intellectual property rights. It's Foral Patent Law, and as a Portuguese partner, it's called Porto University. They will create for us as a best solvent or chemical where the scent molecules could be stored, and design partners will be Design Elevator, and we will work together with two production partners or companies who produce or assemble consumer electronics, and they provide this as a service. Both companies are located in Latvia. What is like biggest biggest trigger or biggest mission behind that is just that we would like to build a medium for senses, because we see that for senses we see like we historically we see that there have been developed media for other sense, like for visuals we have photo camera, which have developed more than a century ago, and for audio record it's the same thing. And now we believe that sooner or later there will be some medium for scent as well as maybe for touch and taste. And we would like to do our best to create a particular medium for scent. We see that, which we will discuss as well today later with Jurgis, that the recent, particularly in this century, there is more and more researches from scientists, from various scientists who gather more and more knowledge about how scent and scent perception works, both regarding how our olfactory system works, and as well as how perception and what kind of role plays sense in our life. And like some of them, like sense could be, I suppose, from what scientists find out previously, is that sense could be essential part of world cultural heritage, the same thing as like pictures, artifacts, and etc. Second finding, memories recalled by doors are significantly more emotional and encoded themselves recalled by visuals or auditory stimulus, so that there is some kind of, let's say, some added value to record sense. Sense can affect mood, physiology, and behavior. And by analyzing sense, it's possible to diagnose various illnesses. It could be used in medicine, as well as identify, analyze air pollution, or detect explosives and other dangerous substances. But this is opportunities what we have and what humanity have. But the problem is that while we understand more and more these opportunities, what scent medium could bring, but there is not easy way how users, how various people all over the world could collect, store, and spray scents in a simply and convenient way. There is no like easy usable media for that. And the one solution which we would like to develop through this project is a scent camera, who is like handheld device with which users can capture, store, and release scents as easy as to record sounds or to record voice messages. There could be different use cases for this technology. One could be, of course, it could be like used medium for recording, storing, and playing scents, and in order to discover how different scents all over the world, right? What similar happened with the pictures. Then, of course, it could be, and it could be a significant medium for visually disabled people, so that they could store their memories, and as well it could be medium for storing scents as part of our culture heritage. So it could be used as well as one more use case could be like anxious people could use a Zen camera for managing their own emotional well-being, or maybe some kind of, it could be used in the sport, just as well as just to use the various scents to let's say to enhance sporting performance. And one more use case could be that doctors could use Zen camera to collect, for example, breaths of patient, and then send this to the laboratory, and through this to analyze, for example, there is cancer or not. Or people or environmentalists could collect some maybe some scent from an environment in order to analyze pollution, to detect pollution, etc. Or some forensic people could use like to detect what happened, or maybe in place, and maybe there are some kind of evidence which people cannot see, but maybe it could be seen by, there are some kind of leftovers of scent molecules which could be found in laboratories. And of course, it could be used as well as for scientists for building different kind of tools to analyze human scent perception. It could be used for perfumers for collecting various scent materials, or artists for adding scent layer for their artworks. And it could be used in different trainings, for example, dentists, firemen, and etc. They could use scent camera in order to maybe train different skills, regarding how maybe what kind of breath patient has, and maybe what it could give, right? What's the scent, what it could give, what it could tell about illness, or firemen could give some kind of evidence from the scent, what actually burns, and etc. The primary use cases are for personal memories, especially for scent camera. Primary use is for personal memory, especially for individuals who are visually disabled people, capture, recreate childhood sense travels, and etc. For cultural heritage and for group sharing. What is our like value proposition? How we see, and is that scent camera could be the first handheld scent recorder available in the market for consumers, which is powered by various services and NFT ecosystem. This particularly, this grant, which I mentioned previously, would help us to build hardware part where users can capture scent and store them, let's say, in storage capsule, and they can store it up to 2 months, right? And for example, this means that you can go to Amazon forest, find some interesting scent of flower, capture, send into specific chemical, and this chemical is sorbent, and then you can go back to Europe and raise this scent of that flower to your friends. This could be long, so we plan that at least we will get 3 months durability, a period that could be stored into the storage capsule. And then could be different services which will be later on developed, not within this project or not within this grant. First, it could be like that you could send us or to our laboratory some kind of sample of the scent which you capture, and we could diagnose what actually is chemical content of that sample, and we can try to reproduce by mixing chemical compounds again. So, and maybe later stage from that is that we could build an NFT ecosystem, which means that, for example, if you capture some specific scent in Himalays, send to laboratory or to accredited network of laboratories, and what could be like primary group an audience, it's meant for visually disabled people who would like to collect their memories via help of the scent. And And
Sometimes you can just disable the option that others can draw something on the screen. I think it's
yes, how to do it? How maybe you know how?
Well, I think if I'm not quite sure. I think if you are a host, you can probably disable writing to others. I think.
Okay.
Not quite sure, but I think it should be somewhere.
Okay.
What are you doing, Jürgen?
So. So I think we removed everybody, all drawers. So let's come back to the presentation. Yes, so our like primary client group are visually disabled people who would like to collect their memories via help of SCEN. And our like, but there are secondary market group, and secondary market group, it could be like for every innovative user who would like to try to SCEN recording technology, and particularly in travels. And so our market survey showed that there are like around almost 70% of people have experienced the SCEN that they would like to record for their own memories or for sharing, and 50% would like to have their own SCEN recorder. And the sample sizes of those surveys was 323 respondents, and mostly from the United States and Europe. So how we position our technology? So we will we would like to set SCEN camera we position as innovative technology for consumers to record and share SCEN sensations. So it's like similarly like a photo camera audio recorders in smartphones, only for audio visual media. And what's biggest different from SCEN diffusers, that SCEN diffusers it's different technology. With SCEN diffusers, you can you have opportunity to release and to release various SCENs, but the SCENs which are already, let's say, inbuilt in this diffuser. So with that you cannot go outside or outdoors and record your own SCEN which you would like, and after that just released. So what kind of impact we would like to have by 2029? So we would like to have we believe that it could be happen that 1 million SCEN cameras could be sold, and we could help around 77,000 consumers with visually disabled people. And what kind of EU priorities we stand on? So we stand that one of the European Commission's priorities for this programming period is promote European way of life by safeguarding fundamental rights and fighting all kinds of discrimination. And this includes as well of discrimination of different people with disabilities. And we think that we should enhance people with visual disabilities to collect their memories in a simply and in a simply and convenient way as people who has visual disabilities have photo camera or video camera. And the second is that priority is a new European agenda for culture, which is adopted by the European Commission in 2018, and which seeks to protect and promote European cultural heritage, a shared resource. And we believe that SCEN could be part of cultural heritage, common cultural heritage as well. So what is our timeline? So that we see that scent camera is a handheld device for capturing, storing, and releasing scents as easy as taking pictures or recording voice. We want to be world leaders in creating scent mediums for mass adoption. Our mission is to enhance human scent experience. So far, we have developed this tech proof of concept technology with 2 universities, design and product concept of scent camera with design elevator this year. And we hope that next year we will start pre-ordering campaign. So we will sell 1,000 pre-orders. And in 2025, we will launch services which support our hardware. And 2026, the scent camera will be like an ecosystem of NFT launch. And 2027, we will launch a digital scent medium. And then maybe we'll be ready to make IPO. So thank you very much. So if you just or Patra has a question, I would likely to answer. If not, then we can go to our conversation with you.
I think probably there are some questions on Facebook.
So,
I'm not sure. I don't see the Facebook news feed or probably some.
Yeah, I can check. I can check that it's.
Are some questions on Facebook?
And no any question yet. So we can go maybe with our conversations then. So second part is conversation with Yudis. So Yudi, can you just, as a scientist, tell us what is like major discoveries, right? What you as a scientist you understand how about scents, right?
Well, first of all, thanks a lot, Sandris, for inviting me to this panel, this discussion concerning scent camera. This is something that is very important in general, because olfaction is among those senses that are extremely, let's say, fruitfully explored in the last 10 years. And well, if I think about those fields where the main discoveries and recent discoveries have been made, I think I would basically split into two parts the whole story. There's of course one part of the story if you think about scent physiology and scent chemistry. There are lots of important discoveries showing the chemical or physiological foundations of ability to perceive scents, and this is kind of one important pathway. The other important pathway is research and perception. So, for instance, I would say there are three very important and groundbreaking in a sense discoveries. The links between emotions and smells are discovered, I would say, within the scope of 25 years. So, I mean, there are so important findings concerning what we can do with the smells in respect to our emotions. So the other important discovery is the link between smells and memories, which means that most likely our olfaction has a very good link to some memories that we are not aware in terms of visual, right? So we might have been forgotten of some events visually. We still have olfactory correlates. I think this is the second important set of discoveries. And then the third is, of course, that smells are linked to the psychosomatic health of a human. So, well, and if people are depressed, then most likely there is some decrease in olfactory sensitivity and olfactory function in general. So, therefore, I think the whole the research on olfaction is booming. So there are those more physiological research fields and most those more related to human perception, but they are all kind of booming. And the point is actually that there was a kind of stereotype, a myth that human olfaction is basically weak if we compare to other mammals. With the myth is in virtue of the famous neuroscientist Broca once wrote that human olfactory system is weak and underdeveloped. And so, well, 20 years ago, researchers started to independently actually from each other to discover that things are entirely different. So human olfaction is very powerful, very fine-grained system. The only difference is that if you compare, for instance, vision and olfaction, we don't have vocabulary for expressing our olfactory experience. So this is probably the only difference. So but I think if you would ask me as a perception scientist, I would say olfaction is the field where we can expect most significant discoveries, most challenging discoveries in the next few years. Not just what we have discovered, but what is in front of us. This is very important and very fascinating, I think.
Got it. And you said that this strength studies, right? It's recent 20 years, right? Phenomenal. Like it's booming more and more. Why it's so? Why we just started to investigate since only now, right? Because we have investigated our eyes and how we hear like more than a century, right?
Yeah, well, I think there are those two. Well, I'll say one reason why we are late in research on olfaction is this Broca's myth. I mean, Broca is really foundational in neuroscience, and his idea was that olfaction is a weak sensorial domain. We don't have to waste time to explore olfaction. Well, we know that humans are not that bad if compared to other mammals. The other reason is more philosophical, I would say. As we know, olfaction or sense of smell is considered to be among the lowest senses. There are no empirical support for this idea. So humans are incredibly good in terms of differentiating different types of smells, and human olfaction is very nuanced, very fine-grained, and so these all studies are booming because, well, we know that humans are conservatively seen able to distinguish between more than 1 trillion scents. This is significantly more than colors, than visual input. So, if that's the case, let's explore. Let's go ahead with research on olfaction. This is significantly more interesting in a sense and other explored. And
what are the things what researchers still don't know but would like to discover, right? What are the...
So I think, well, what is really important, I think, we know that because of COVID-19, lots of people are having olfactory impairments. So, and we also know that these people are having depressive conditions. They have some emotional impairments. So the point is that it has some link to olfactory perception. And if that's the case, we should do more research to explore what's going on with olfaction in case of depression. And the point is also that we can use olfaction for diagnostic purposes. So we can, for instance, we can detect whether humans are having a normal, let's say, psychosomatic functioning. This is something that several labs are currently working. And then the next important point is we should be able at some point to develop tools for using olfactory perception in order to increase our psychological well-being. So this is another pathway that is super important. I mean, if you know that people are having, depression, well, if we can use olfactory perception to increase the well-being, let's go ahead with that. So, I mean, these are areas that are very lively explored at the moment. I think another important field is, of course, to understand how exactly olfaction is linked to visual perception, how olfaction is linked to taste perception. Okay, I mean, we know that taste perception and olfaction are inherently related because they both are chemical senses. But now, how are we linking smells, colors, noises around us? This is so interesting, so fascinating. We don't have lots of results 2022 about this.
Yes, got it. Maybe just a little bit is repeating that question, but what is the role of sense in human perception, right? How far we understand, but from science perspective, what's our understanding?
Well, this is a good question, because if you think about human perception, we know a lot about visual perception. Well, of course, there's a lot of things that we don't know, but nevertheless, we know a lot about auditory perception. We know a lot about haptics. But in case of olfactory perception, there's a lot of underexplored fields. So, for instance, we know that olfaction is emotionally constrained, or olfaction is linked to emotion processing. This is not the case with other senses, with other perceptual domains. So if you ask what is the role of olfaction, sense in human perception, I think in case of olfaction, we have the shortcut to emotions. We don't have this shortcut in case of visual perception. We don't have this shortcut in haptics and touch. So this is absolutely awesome. Well, what happens when we are navigating in the city, when we are seeing things around us? Well, normally, most of the studies are saying, well, we are using visual input, but not just visual input. We are smelling things around us. We know that there are parts of the city that are lovely in terms of sense. There are parts of the city that are disgusting. And so we are incorporating olfactory information in so-called cognitive maps. So there are very few studies on that. So I think all topics that we have been mentioning today are so important and so underexplored and underdeveloped that they all will be researched and described in the next few years. So we know a lot of, let's say so. We know that olfaction is the most emotional sense, both in terms of direct emotional impact, but also in terms of memory, right? So yes. In case of memory, we have this very important emotional shape, in a sense that, let's say, if there is a 30 years old event that has particular olfactory quality, we are able to recall this event. Now, what are the mechanisms behind it? Well, we know very rough, very sort of robust principles, but so the details are in front of us. So this is one of the reasons why I think scent camera is in the right time, in the right place. This is kind of a future technology and a future research framework that should and could be explored.
And maybe you can tell about role of sense in your personal not in your personal life, right?
Well, I think of course, I mean it's very difficult to distinguish what is the, let's say, my personal perspective and what is the perspective of a perceptual researcher. But I think I'm kind of fascinated how it's both concerning my research perspective, but also for me as a human. I'm fascinated how fine-grained and detailed is the link of olfaction to our memories, and this has always fascinated me. So I mean, there is this title Proustian memories, because we know Marcel Proust was the writer describing the memories having particular perceptual qualities. But this is something that we all have in our everyday situations. We have memories that are triggered by our olfactory stimuli around us, and I'm both as a human and a researcher. I'm kind of fascinated by this, and I think. Well, I mean, I'm also, I think, well, one point that I think it's worth exploring also from research perspective, but it's kind of super fascinating for me personally. We can modulate our mood. We can increase, decrease, depending on what we want, based on the olfactory environment. And so this is so interesting, and I think I'm always when exploring visual perception, because that's the field where I was working, let's say, last more than 20 years. I'm always thinking that, well, in case of sense, in case of olfaction, we have the direct emotional shortcut, and therefore, I think. Olfaction is sort of for me, it's it's of course probably the most fascinating perceptual domain, but also I don't have lots of answers in lots of everyday questions, and therefore I think. But I'm not. I would say most of my colleagues working on olfaction share the same attitude. So we find the work on olfaction important, cool, timely, not just because we don't have research evidence, but it's also importantly here and now. I mean, we live in the world where we have lots of people suffering from COVID-19 effects, and this is so present. How impairment of one particular sense of olfaction can have impact on the well-being and life quality of everyday interaction.
Got it. And from that, right? What would you say? What would be your answer? Why would humanity need a medium for sense, similar as we have photo camera or audio recorder or video camera?
Well, I think, well, first of all, we have to keep in mind that we are not just visual, right? So there's this kind of default answer that, well, we live in a visual and a time where we have lots of visual information around us. But the point is that lots of information, especially emotionally constrained information, are entering our perceptual systems by olfaction. And I think, let's say, a scent camera is a wonderful tool for representing our memories in a very exact sense. And I think this could be interesting if we have, let's say, some visual material, maybe that this corresponding olfactory material is even more precise. So I think for representing memories, this is I think one important field. Then well, there's a lot of research applications. So we can use scent camera for testing depression. We can most likely be able. We will most likely be able to use a scent camera for testing neurodegenerative impairments, but also testing of normal aging. So I mean, if humans are getting older, we know that our sensorial systems are getting less precise, or I mean, the sensitivity is decreasing. Now we can use a scent camera for very precise testing whether this normality in aging is the case or not, and that concerns absolutely everyone. You know, this is not just scientists. I mean, if we want to know whether we are getting old in a normal sense, I mean, physiologically normal, then I think a scent camera could be a really awesome tool for doing this. And I think one important point about why we need tools like scent camera, and I think scent camera in particular, actually, we can improve our emotional well-being. If that's the case, that we are reacting to scents emotionally, and I mean, we know there is this perfume therapy and scent therapy and all these semi, I would say, or some sense also pseudo research fields. But nevertheless, the point is that, well, scents trigger emotions. And if that's the case, we can, of course, develop scents that can increase emotional well-being. And we can, I mean, for instance, one field that comes to my mind, research on interfaces, research on user experience. We know that we can use colors to increase the sense of trust, increase of the sense of reliability, the sense of trustworthiness. So we can do the same with olfaction, and probably in a more fine-grained and more focused way. And therefore, I think a scent camera could be a really awesome tool for doing that kind of tasks.
And maybe last question what would you record with scent camera and why? You personally, right? Let's imagine I will bring you in 18 months, right, device which works, right? You can go and record. What would be the first thing? What would you like to record?
Yeah, this is I mean, I'm totally bad address for this question, because I would definitely record different contexts to test experimentally, and in that respect, totally wrong address. But I think, well, I of course, I'm very much interested to record events, important, well, nice events that could be recreated in a different situations in terms of the olfactory experience. And I mean, we all are traveling. We all have wonderful, awesome olfactory experience. Now, well, it would be so cool to have this emotional olfactory experience present here and now. So I think that's absolutely important and fascinating field. So I think we all have this kind of a, illusion that, well, our eye is the most prominent perceptual domain. I think there is some truth in it, because vision is the entry domain in our perception, but vision is less is certainly less emotional than olfaction, and we don't have tools for recording olfaction. And emotion, yeah, absolutely. So I think all these applications, and my personal field of application, apart from research, would be probably to record nice situations with a nice olfactory environment, ambient. That would be what I would use.
And here we have a question from Patra, and it's she or he, I don't know, saying, Frank's interesting topic. But the question is, what are the scent measurement scales? What are perceptual dimensions which we can characterize scent?
Okay, well, thanks, Patra. That's of course a very good question. So I think there are two two boxes. One box is to test sensitivity to particular scents, because it depends on the intensity. It depends on concentration level of a particular scent, and that's interesting. But because some scents are fading away faster, some less. So we can call this box number one physiological threshold box. But there is the other box. And that's hedonic measurements. And hedonic measurements are the liking of particular scents and emotions, so that we are that are triggered. And there are quite a few scales and tools and measurement systems. The problem is, in general, that if you think about scents, and you want to measure them emotionally, you have to confront something that is inherently richer, that is significantly richer than language, with some language-based scales, right? And this is kind of a very tricky, because basically olfaction is one of the few perceptual domains that is not categorical in the strict sense. So we don't have clear categories. What is, let's say, beautiful? What is disgusting? I mean, there are sort of very fine-grained differences. So for researchers, it's very important. It's actually tricky to develop scales and the systems of measurement that are precisely measuring this hedonic or emotional effect. So there is a field that is well established, and there are lots of measurement scales, but it's specific. Namely, that's the fragrance industry. So in perfume and fragrance industry, there's of course well established methods and tools. I mean, what is the point about the scent camera? We are interested in more than just fragrance type of scents. We are interested in lots of scents that are around us and might be interesting and cool and worth exploring.
So thank you, Jurgis, and thank you everybody who has watched now or who will watch us on YouTube and other platforms. So thank you very much.
Thank you.